Boy, today has been a long day, but here I am back with another one of Jordan Peterson's rules for life. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. First of all, welcome back to another video. I'm Ann Blackwood, your Silicon Valley Sage Sister, here to bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. So, as we go over Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life, as I said, I'm not going to do them in order, but today I'm kind of doing it in the reverse order because we started with number 9 and we're going to number 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. This is something I've also talked about before because it's so important, and it's something that I've spoken about long before I knew anything about Jordan Peterson, and that's what I've said continuously. I love so much about a lot of what Jordan Peterson talks about is it's things that I had discovered over the years, just living life as I have, and found the best, most precise words to explain what I had learned through reading his work. Telling the truth, being authentic in general, is so important. And when I basically took a vow of radical honesty at a certain point, and my life has never been the same since, and it's never been better since. Because what happens when you take a radical vow of honesty is that it's not that you're saying everything that ever pops into your head, but what you do is you tell the truth, and when you feel like you can't tell the truth, you don't lie. And that makes a big difference for several reasons. One, you're always being your authentic self. If you don't feel like you have the words to tell the truth in a way that won't be harmful, because you may tell the truth when it's hurtful, but harmful is another story. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is be cruel, I say. But I've never really liked that because, again, you don't want to be harmful, although it might be hurtful when you tell the truth. Sometimes, as I've said, the best thing you can do for someone is not be accepting, not be tolerant, not be dishonest for the sake of having them be comfortable. And there are many times in our lives when we're going to come across this. And more often than not, it's going to end up being for our sake or theirs. Sometimes it's going to be both. But more often than not, when people find this the hardest, it's actually for their own sake, not the other person's, that it's hard. Because so many of us end up having a hard time upholding our own boundaries. So rather than being honest, rather than being authentic, we end up letting people cross our boundaries for the sake of staying comfortable ourselves to keep them comfortable. And not only is this telling a lie, it's not being authentic. Because if you were being authentic, if you were telling the truth, you'd say, hey, I need you to not do this, or hey, I'm not okay with this. And sometimes that may mean not explaining yourself if you don't feel like that would be helpful. Sometimes it just is like, hey, I need a break. But the more honest you can get, the more respect you will get, the more liked honestly you will be. Because what people don't seem to understand is the people that others like the most, which you never want to do anything for other people's validation. But that's the funny thing about the law of attraction as a universal law that we all deal with on a daily basis, whether you believe in it or not. You know, I was talking about the law of attraction long before I knew it was something that existed in the spiritual world. I had discovered it in the physical 3D world and was describing it to people long before I knew the words law of attraction. So the funny thing is that the more you are confident in yourself, that you don't give a crap what anybody else thinks, the more people actually like you. We all have this idea that in order to get people to like us, we need to make them comfortable. When really, in fact, in order for people to really like us, they have to know us, which means we have to be authentic. They can't get to know us at all. And I've talked about this before as well. That when you aren't being honest, you're not just depriving yourself of things, you're depriving someone else of the chance to actually get to know you. And I guarantee you, if they don't want to get to know you, then you don't want them around anyway. So not only does radical honesty provide you the outlet for upholding your boundaries, which is really coming from being authentic, it also gives you the opportunity to weed out anybody that's not supposed to be around you anyway by figuring out who can handle who you are. You know, so many people will take this, tell the truth or at least don't lie, and they'll take it to a point of keeping their mouth shut. Just keeping their mouth shut all the time. That's not being authentic either. Because if you can't be honest about who you are and how you feel with others, again, you're spending time with someone who doesn't know who you are, who can't get to know you for who you are, therefore they can't like you, even if they end up keeping you around. I said this just the other day when it comes to standards. We will allow our standards of others to be very low because we want others' standards of us to be low, just in case we mess up. But why do that to yourself? Why do that to yourself? Why not hold yourself to a standard of excellence? Not perfection, but a standard of authentic vibration. Because when you can do that, that is truly when you will feel your best. Because not only will you feel your best from the inside, but you will also feel your best because the people who love you for who you actually are will be the people around you. So you will not only have that love from within, but you will also reflectionarily have love from outside of yourself that's actually real. So, remember, if you don't feel like you can tell the truth, at least don't lie. Don't deprive others of the opportunity to discover the truth. Because when you validate people, because this is the other side of things, when you validate people, even by, I shouldn't say even by, when you validate people through lies, they don't get an opportunity to sense that anything's wrong. As where when you at least don't validate them by keeping your mouth shut, then they can start to pick up on the fact that there's something wrong. They already know that something's wrong, to be perfectly honest. They know inside. Most do. It's very rare that someone is so deluded they don't know that they're full of crap. To be perfectly honest. But the more we validate people's BS with lies, the more we're conditioning people to think that what they're doing is okay. And we don't want to do that to people. We don't want to be the reason that they end up living their lives miserably because we conditioned them, or we were part of their conditioning. We were part of their validation to live a crappy life. Why would you want to do that to somebody? You know? And if you cannot bring yourself to be honest by telling the truth about how you feel about something, at least don't validate it with a lie. stay in the middle, don't validate it at all, by just keeping your mouth shut. It's so much better for everyone involved if you cannot bring yourself to tell the truth. Because that would be the most loving thing to do. The only time not telling the truth would be a more loving thing to do in terms of keeping your mouth shut is if you absolutely cannot say it without being harmful. Which, like I said, is different than being hurtful. Because we may say something that someone else doesn't want to hear, and there's a point where they need to hear it, and that's always going to be a little hurtful. But you can at least say it in the kindest, most loving way possible that's not harmful. And really, it's not up to us, because they might take it as harmful, and there's nothing we can do about that. But they need to hear it. They need to hear it. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for somebody is not being accepting, not being tolerant. I used this example before. When I was doing drugs, had my parents been unconditionally accepting and tolerant, I'd probably be dead in a ditch somewhere. It's a beautiful example that I have personally that I can give. There are times, and that's just one example, when the most loving thing we can do is not being accepting, not being tolerant. But if you cannot speak up about that, at least don't validate the lie, the harm, the bad, the problem with a lie about how you feel or what you think is going on. Because that's not helpful for anyone. We all think that it's better to keep somebody comfortable. We all think that people being comfortable is the most loving thing we can do for people. That isn't true. That is not true. And honestly, when it comes down to it, we don't affect someone else's comfort level. They do. Just like we can't make anybody feel anything. They choose to feel it or not. They're going to feel it regardless. At the end of the day, the longer you postpone telling the truth, the more likely you are to make it worse for yourself, worse for them, and it's probably going to fall apart anyway. That's the last thing, is that when we're being dishonest, especially for the sake of someone else's comfort, we have zero foundation to the relationship because it's all built on lies, which is basically quicksand that eats up a relationship. Is where if you can start getting honest about some of the silly little uncomfortable things, the trivial uncomfortable things, you can start establishing that baseline of telling the truth about the things that you can both recognize have nothing to do with each other. It's a great way to start, is talking about things that you know are topics that aren't attached to identity. You know, my significant other and I. Yeah. My significant other and I argue about kitchen spices and which kitchen spices are the most popular in American homes. We can do that because we know it has nothing to do with how we feel about each other. Neither of us are strongly attached to the idea in a way that's attached to our identity with kitchen spices. We're not attached to kitchen spices within our identity. But when you can start with those little things, you can build it up. And at the end of the day, then you can get the things that are attached to the identity. And the more you can do that, the more you can start realizing that even those things shouldn't be attached to one's identity, because they're still things you do, not things you are. And if you're in a place where you can do that and someone else can't, it might be time to let them go. it might be that point in your awakening where it's time to, as you raise your vibration, start attracting other more higher vibrational people in your life, rather than holding on to the ones that aren't growing with you. So remember, when we lie, there are a handful of harmful things that we are doing to ourselves and to others. And the worst thing you can do for anyone else is validate with a lie, especially when it comes to things that make you uncomfortable. And the worst thing you can do for not just yourself, but someone else is validate things with lies, making it so that your entire relationship has no foundation whatsoever. Because that's what it comes down to when your whole relationship is built on lies. It's as if not only does it not have a foundation, but it's quite literally built on quicksand. It's just going to swallow it whole. And then you're both going to be miserable and dead. Why have people around anyway that you can't be honest with? We are what we consume. And that includes the people we're around. And if the people you're around don't like who you actually are, if you don't feel open to be who you actually are with the people you're around, then it's time to reevaluate the people you're around. Another thing that radical honesty is great for is building confidence, because you start to realize, just like I talk about upholding one's boundaries, this is part of that. I love to bring up the fact that all too often I have people come back to me and be like, oh my gosh, I upheld my boundaries and people respected me more. Yeah, that's how it works. You respect yourself more, others will respect you more. You're honest more, others will be honest more. And you will come across that person from time to time who, because they're capable of something, whatever it is, they'll believe you're capable of it. That's the sign that there's too much projection going on there. That's probably a relationship you won't want to be in for long. But if you can't be honest about it, you're definitely not going to be in it for long, because the natural way the universe works is going to step in and rip you apart. So, just like upholding your boundaries, being radically honest, like I said in the beginning, not saying everything that comes to mind, but saying everything that you've thought about for a moment is truly important to say. Because not only will you get more and more used to speaking your truth, and that'll build your confidence, because you'll start to see people respect you more for being authentically you, because that's how that works. But you'll also be able to respect yourself more, because you'll be able to start to see the people you don't need to be around, and therefore be able to start getting rid of them. All right, guys, thank you for joining me for another video. I can't wait to see you guys for the next Rule for Life from Jordan Peterson. I still don't know which one it'll be, because I pick it on the day that I do it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. All sorts of amazing links in the description. My one-on-one holistic health session packages, my free clarity call if you have any questions, my email if you have any questions, my mailing list, dōTERRA, which is your one-stop shop for getting rid of all of those synthetic chemicals out of your home and replacing them with the best, purest plant-based products. Patreon, where I have all of my journal exercises, guided meditations, my intuitive lifestyle course, my spirituality 101 and 2.0 series, and so much more at several different membership tiers, so that anyone can join in at any level they're ready to. And yeah, may the energies you serve you well, and let's keep making our way through.